Our third speaker is Priscilla Ankrah. She too graduates in May. She took her undergraduate degree in French, Peace, and Conflict Studies and has carried through that commitment to international issues of social justice while here at the law school. And this year she is serving as the senior editor of the Los Angeles Public Interest Law Journal. Thank you.
So I had just spent 3 hours in customs. I had waited in line, I was searched repeatedly, and I was hungry and tired from a 4-hour flight. I had barely made it with 15 minutes left for my connecting flight, and all I was looking forward to was resting my head against the window near my window seat and sleeping. But when I finally arrived to my prized window seat at 19A, there was a lady in it seated next to her child. The flight attendant turned to me and asked me if it would be okay for me to take a middle seat in the back of the plane so that the woman in my seat could sit next to her daughter. I was livid. Right then and there, I decided that no matter what happened, I would not give up my seat. You see, the woman in my seat was white. And in that moment, I could not see a woman who needed to comfort her child. All I could see was white privilege and a white woman who refused to address me even as she was occupying my seat. Was I right to be angry? Had I assessed the scenario accurately? Was this a modern exemplar of a white person forcing another black woman to the back of a moving vehicle? Or was this something innocent? I stood there in my anger, conflicted. How had race, once again, become so entwined in the seemingly innocent exchange? How had it come to this? I want to share my story with you. Race did not always matter for me. I am the product of black African immigrant parents who had the courage to leave Ghana in the 1970s to escape famine for a better life in Libya. While there, my parents were lucky enough to win the visa lottery to emigrate here through the Reagan administration's immigration policies. Haunted by the memory of nepotism and corruption in Ghana, America's promise of a meritocracy for my parents meant a life where no limits existed if they were willing to work hard. My parents instilled this pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality in my siblings and I, perhaps in the naive hope that it was true, that indeed through hard work and determination, life would remain limitless. This was my parents' dream, and within it, race, and therefore racism, simply did not and could not exist. And for a while, racism did not exist for me as well in my first years in America. I remember those first days when I joined my parents in a slice of suburbia in Diamond Bar 8 years after their arrival. I was beside myself with joy. I would close my eyes and open them in complete disbelief that I was truly here. Everything was beautiful, almost glimmering, and even the sun shone differently here. I almost loved this place, but somewhere within me, I knew that I did not belong here and that I was somehow always on the outside of everything. This awareness began innocently. There were constant questions from my classmates about the lions and tigers and elephants that they presumed I lived with in Ghana. And once, out of sheer curiosity, my desk mate licked my arm to see if I tasted like chocolate, which I don't. And I really didn't mind my teacher asking me if the first time I wore clothes was when I landed in LAX either. To me, this was what I assumed were innocent questions about my difference. But as I progressed from elementary school to my undergraduate years, I could no longer deny race and racism in mine and my family's life. My memories persist. There was the time my brother was stopped by our neighborhood police because they thought he was riding a stolen bike. Or that time I worked as a courtesy clerk for Vaughn's and my supervisor detained me for an hour to go through videotape footage to prove that I did not steal a tangerine from the fruit stand. And once in my sophomore year of college, on the night of President Obama's first inauguration, a car drove by my friends and I and yelled, "Fuck you, you fucking niggers." The fact is, these experiences are not unique. And in my 20 years of living in America, I have come to understand these experiences as vital rites of baptism into Black citizenry. For my family and I believe many families in this nation, race and racism is a constant, overwhelming presence. We structure living, loving, working, and being around it. And it is the haunting that makes fragile our brittle hopes of an American meritocracy free from racism. I imagine perhaps that is why we celebrate Dr. King. He believed in the best of us, and he dreamed of a beloved community where we could accept ourselves and our differences and love each other for who we truly are. And although I imagine that we all hope to live in this community where race has no bearing on our love and our acceptance for each other, it is evident that we are nevertheless living with a keen awareness of being judged every day by the color of our skin. To deny this truth under the myth of colorblindness is a painful and profound betrayal of Dr. King's legacy. As a nation, America carries this betrayal collectively by the ways in which we choose to forget and remember Dr. King. Dr. King was so intensely driven by love for this nation and the conviction that racial equality was the only way forward to realizing a beloved community of equals. But 48 years after his murder, Dr. King is celebrated not for confronting Jim Crow laws under white supremacy or for fighting for economic justice for the colored masses of the world. Rather, he is celebrated to maintain the facade of a colorblind meritocracy while America wholeheartedly denies the real and devastating effect racism continues to have on the lives of people of color in this nation. Beloved community, what colorblindness demands of us is a collective amnesia that seeks to erase centuries of plunder of the bodies of indigenous Americans, Africans, Chinese, Mexicans, exploited in the name of American conquest. What colorblindness demands of us is that we accept racial disparities in schooling, income, housing, prison sentencing that relegate millions to a separate and unequal existence in this nation. Colorblindness is the lie that destroys the hope we have to move forward as a nation truly unified in love and equal opportunity. And beloved, we must confront this lie by confronting race and confronting our history. So I returned to seat 19A with me, my anger, a mother and her child, living out a very racialized drama in a post-racial, colorblind world. Although I eventually gave up my seat, I've left seat 19A feeling conflicted. As I walked down the aisle from 19A to my middle seat by the bathroom in the back of the plane, I felt the full weight of our dark racial past haunting even the most innocent of our exchanges. So I sat in my seat in silence. This is post-racial America, 48 years after Dr. King. A dream and our reality unreconciled. Thank you.